Demonstration Nugget, exporting and importing data. Hello everybody, this is Ben Finkel, and in this nugget I'm going to walk you through the steps needed to export and import data in a bulk fashion out of your Google Cloud SQL instances, as well as talking about how you manage your backup and recovery options for disaster recovery. Let's start with creating a Google Cloud Storage bucket in order to save our imports and exports too. So you're going to go to cloud.google.com and select Go to My Console. Make sure you sign in with the appropriate account and then select the project that you're using to do this work. Our case is GSQL Nuggets. I'm going to go ahead and select that, expand storage on the left hand side here, expand the cloud storage option, and then select Storage Browser. Now if you don't have any buckets yet, the only option will be to create a bucket. If you do have some buckets, you'll see them listed, and you can click Create a Bucket anyways to create a new bucket or just reuse one of your existing buckets. When you create a Google Cloud Storage bucket, the only rule, and you can see the instructions right here, are that it has to be unique across all projects in Google Cloud Storage. That's not all of your projects, that's all projects period. So across the entire Google Cloud Storage spectrum, you've got to come up with a bucket name that is completely unique. So I'm going to go ahead and say GCP Nugget Bucket. I bet you that's pretty unique. And click Create, and after a few moments it's going to create that bucket for me. And a bucket is really nothing more than a file folder that I can upload files into, either from my desktop or from another source. However, I don't want to manually upload files right now. What I want to do is actually export from one of my Google Cloud SQL instances into this bucket. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my D1 instance here. And all I'm going to do is choose the export option right here at the top on my control panel. I'll say export, and you can see the only thing it wants to know is my Google Cloud Storage path, which is a bucket name and then a file name. So my bucket name was GCP Nugget Bucket. Then I need a /, and my file name I'll call it export demo.gz. Now recall that adding the .gz extension onto the file name, like I did right there, is going to cause Google Cloud SQL to automatically compress, gzip up the MySQL dump file that it creates. I can also expand Show Advanced Options right here, and if I do, I can indicate specific databases or specific schemas to export with this export file. I'm just going to leave it blank so it exports the whole database. Click OK, and it says exporting data up there. I'm just going to give it a second, and once it's complete, I can go back to my storage bucket and I'll be able to see the file there inside of my bucket. Go to Storage, Storage Browser, select my bucket, and there is my export demo.gz file. And notice that it also created a nice little log file of the export for me. So if anything went wrong or I need to review the status of the output of this export, I can go ahead and select that file and take a look at it. So Google Cloud Storage is just blob storage. If I select one of these files, it's actually going to go ahead and download into my downloads folder, and then I can import it into one of my local databases if I want, or take a look at the log file. But what I want to do is I want to actually import it into a different Cloud SQL database. So this was an export from D1. I'm going to open up my D2 instance. And notice these are different instance types. D1 was a D1 type, a 512 gigabyte type, and this is a 1 gigabyte type. But I can import this database anyways because it's just a database export. It's a definition of the database. So I click Import, go ahead and type in my bucket path again. And notice once again that I can add the .gz extension right on my import file. I don't have to unzip it into the raw MySQL dump files. Google Cloud SQL knows how to handle a gzip extension file. It assumes it's compressed, it's going to uncompress it for me. And if I want to only import specific databases out of that export, I can list those databases inside of the advanced options. I'll go ahead and click OK. And again, it's just going to take a moment, and now my D1 and my D2 instance are exactly the same. I exported my data out of D1, I've loaded it up into D2. So I've bulk moved my entire database from one Google Cloud SQL instance into another. Let's take a look at how we can do this same operation from the command line utilities. I'm going to go ahead and open up my terminal window, and we're going to use two different utilities. One is the gcloud SQL utility we've been using throughout the Nuggets in this Google Cloud SQL course, but we're also going to use something called gsutil. That's the Google Storage Utility command line, and that's how we're going to create our Google Cloud Storage buckets. It's very easy to do, but if you want to know more about gsutil, check out our Google Cloud Storage Nuggets. To create a bucket, though, it's very easy. I'm going to type gsutil space MB, stands for make bucket. Then I got to give it the unique URL syntax for Google Cloud Storage buckets. You saw it in the console earlier. It's gs : and then our unique bucket name. I'm going to go GCP Nugget Bucket 2. And Hit enter, and that's simply going to make me a new bucket called GCP Nugget Bucket 2. So now that's a bucket that I can export my instances into. To do that, I'm simply going to call gcloud SQL instances export. Choose the instance name I want to export. Let's go with my-instance. And I got to point it to the Google Cloud Storage bucket that I want to export into. gs:// GCP Nugget Bucket 2 / we'll call it my instance.gz. Again, I add the .gz extension. Google Cloud SQL will automatically compress it into a gzip file for me. Hit enter. It's just going to take a moment to export that Cloud SQL instance into that bucket. And once it's complete, I can take a look at it in the bucket. I can simply call gsutil space ls gs:// GCP Nugget Bucket 2. And I can see the contents of that bucket right here inside of my command line interface. I can also, of course, go back here to my storage browser, look at GCP Nugget Bucket 2, and see the files that I just exported 0 minutes ago right here inside of my bucket. Importing is as easy as calling gcloud SQL instances import. Choose my target instance. I'm going to go d2-instance again. We're going to keep overwriting this d2 instance. And choose the source file, gs:// GCP Nugget Bucket 2, what did I name it? myinstance.gz. Again, I can import the gzip file directly, whether it came out of Google Cloud Storage or Google Cloud SQL, or if it came from my own local instance. As long as it's a zipped up MySQL dump file, it's going to unzip it appropriately for me, import it right into my Google Cloud SQL instance. Now these operations, imported and exported MySQL dump files, are great for moving around bulk data in and out of your databases, whether it's from instance to instance or if you want to move, say, from a development environment on your local desktop up to your production environment in the Google Cloud SQL environment. That's what the import and export utilities are for. But when you want to back up your data, there is a great utility built right into Google Cloud SQL called the backup utility, and that's going to make sure that you are prepared for disaster scenarios, that you have backups of your database. Backups run automatically for you every 24 hours, assuming that the data has changed since the last backup was run. And it's very easy to set up. You simply come to the details of your instance here, click the edit button, and scroll down to your backup section. Here's where you enable backups if you want them, and you choose the time window. That's really the start window when your backups are going to run. And basically what's going to happen here is it's going to try to run your backup at the very beginning of this window that you indicate. So if you indicate the 5 a.m. window here, like I select here, at 5 a.m. every day, it's going to try to create a backup for me. And again, this is assuming the data has changed since the last time a backup was run. The only thing that would prevent a backup from running is if there was currently a write operation ongoing when that window started. So you want to make sure that you choose a low time frame, a low usage time frame for your database for your backups to run. And the backup process will continue to try over and over and over during that window so that it can get a snapshot of the database when there are no write operations running. So it's not going to just try once and quit, but you do need to make sure that you have a good low usage window so that your backups will actually run. Once your backups have run, you can look at your instances and you can see your backups listed down here. Here's the last one that was run on this database. It was November 21st. If I want to restore it, all I have to do is click the restore button. It's really the easiest thing in the world to do. Click restore. It's going to restore from the backup, and a few moments later I'll have a nice restored backup. This is all very easy to do from the command line as well. If I drop back down to my terminal, get that off the screen there, and you can set your backup time either when you create your instance during the gcloud SQL create command, or also with the patch command, gcloud SQL instances patch. Choose your instance that you want to patch, and you're just going to use the -- backup start time switch. What time do I want it to start? Let's start this one at 12:00. Hit enter. It's going to patch my instance. I can go back and I can take a look at my instance details here and see that my backup plan has now changed to begin at 12:00 a.m. like I just said inside of the command line. Restoring a backup from the command line is a little more complicated than doing it through the user interface, but not much. And the reason for that is we need an identifier for the backup that we wish to restore. We get that identifier by listing out the available backups. So I'm going to call gcloud SQL backups. That's a new resource that we're running gcloud SQL commands against. Pass in an instance name. It's going to be my-instance. And the command I want to run, list. So this is going to list all of the available backups for the my-instance database. And you can see them all listed here. Most of them say skipped under the status because my data had not been changing. But my last successful one was right here on November 21st. Now this due time identifier is really important. I'm going to need that full string in order to restore this particular database. That's the unique identifier for this backup for my instance. So I'm actually going to highlight it and just copy it onto the clipboard so that now I can call gcloud SQL instances my-instance. I want to call restore backup to my-instance. Pass in the --do time switch. This is where that unique identifier comes in. So I can uniquely identify the instance or the backup instance that I want to restore. Hit enter. Just going to take a few moments, restore that right up to my Google Cloud SQL instance. That concludes this nugget on exporting and importing data with Google Cloud SQL. We took a look at how to create a Google Cloud Storage bucket and then export our database instances into it in a gzipped file so they were nice and compressed, as well as re-import those files back up to a different instance from that same cloud storage bucket. Took also a look at how we can set up our backup and recovery options so that we have good disaster recovery set up for our Google Cloud SQL databases. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.